2023 Genesis G70 review, a surprisingly engaging sports sedan with an ample amount of practicality. The 2023 Genesis G70 bravely runs a gauntlet between cool-looking and kitschy. The more you poke around it, the more interesting it gets. The more you drive it, the more fun you can have. But what surprised me most was how practical it is. And Bramble the dog loved it. A bold pentagonal grille and twin-slit headlights have become the signature Genesis face, but every other aesthetic element looks like it was lifted from another popular look in the car world. Your dog might not notice this, but I feel compelled to point it out. The lower grilles have the curving of a tuner car body kit. Fender grilles look like they came from a Euro luxury car, while the red Brembo-branded calipers are classic sports car style. Inside, the quilted stitching does a decent Bentley impression, and the fake aluminum trim looks like it was cribbed from a Mustang. Yet in spite of, or because of, all that, the G70 looks pretty damn good. Welcome to Will It Dog, the Drives car review series for canine owners. In this article, we'll look at what the G70 sedans like to live with if you have dogs and point out any specific aspects that help or hurt its case as a pooch taxi. Our main test dogs Bramble, Indy, and Silas are littermates. Half Golden Retriever, Dad, and half Australian Shepherd, Mom. Bramble's the smallest at 40-odd pounds, while her brothers are about 60 pounds apiece. They're energetic animals but comfortable with car rides, harnesses, and travel. You can click here to see my favorite photo of them, and their TikTok is pending. The G70 is a traditional medium-sized sedan with low doors and a high trunk lid. Rear seats are really deep, and a passenger, or dog, can kind of nest into them. We'll end up talking about this a lot. There's plenty of headroom for larger creatures, and passengers up to Bramble's size can curl up very securely. The seats themselves are sumptuous and comfortable. They're in a really nice happy medium of tautness that feels fancy without swallowing you like an old basement couch. I let Bramble sit on the leather at first, and she clearly loved it, snuggling herself into the shape of the Firefox logo in no time. But when she tried to hop in after wrestling in the mud with her brother, I just couldn't stand the idea of paw prints all over the leather quilting. Fortunately, a seat cover didn't seem to diminish her enjoyment of the G70's rear area. Finished in an ultra-soft microfiber suede, the headliner is another high point on the Sport Prestige trim G70 and is just lovely to look at. But be advised, it does attract errant wisps of fur, and peeling stuff off it can be slightly annoying. Plastics are the only area that kinda betrays the opulent ambiance. There's not much in the way of hard surfaces that an animal secured in the back seat could access, but I did notice that the electronic parking brake lever had clearly been scratched by human fingernails. So I'd imagine a pooch could mark it up too. At the risk of nitpicking, I have to point out that the turn signal stock felt off-puttingly flimsy. Not a deal-breaker, but it did break the spell of fanciness a little bit when I went to make turns. The rear door sills, and seats for that matter, are really pretty low to the ground. A dog, even a small one, or an elderly human, could go from the street to the seat very easily. Not much else to say about that one. I had no trouble climbing into the car with Bramble to buckle her harness into the seatbelt. Trunk access, on the other hand, feels quite high. Not that you'd be loading a dog into a sealed trunk like this, but it's pretty far off the ground for heaving in heavy cargo. I mentioned nesting in the interior section above. The rear seats are deeply bucketed, so a medium-sized dog is kind of naturally tucked into them, even with a seat cover and a seatbelt harness. I bet a hefty Labrador's butt would be inclined to fall into the leather quilted pits in the back seat of this car. The G70 has auxiliary seat controls and limo-style switches on the left side of the right passenger seat that lets a driver easily scooch the passenger seat up if it's empty. These are great for driving around the VIPs in your life, including very important pups. Bramble was very curious about the noise, but in all seriousness, this feature would be really useful if your dog's on the larger side and you need to adjust an empty passenger seat for them.